Welcome, Peter. Um, With that, Noel, if you call the roll. Here.
John Walsh.
Here.
Steve Corley.
Present.
Jim James. John Milo.
Here.
Sylvia Nichols.
Here.
Sandy Bogano.
Here.
Peter Talbot.
Virtually here.
And David Belver.
Here.
Please rise for the pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Again, welcome. And just as a matter of policy, we occasionally have these public hearings which precede our regular meetings. So we're going to zoom right into those, and we're going to begin with the public hearing regarding the consideration of Fair Rent Commission ordinance. This is a new ordinance in Cheshire, sort of a statewide mandate. And before we get started on that, I just want to indicate to anyone in the audience who's potentially here to learn about this and talk about it. It is on the council agendas to approve or disapprove of this. But what we are going to do as a council this evening is meet collectively as a body with our ordinance committee and the rest of the council to discuss this further, and with the anticipation of making a determination of this on January 24th, which is our next regular meeting in the month. I just wanted all of you to be aware of that. Any comments coming forward too will obviously be taken into consideration or are welcome. So with that, we are going to begin the public hearing. And with that, I will ask Noel to read the call to the extent reasonable.
The town council of the town of Cheshire will hold a public hearing at 7 p.m. on Tuesday, January 10th, 2023, in the Town Hall Council Chambers, 84 South Main Street, Cheshire, Connecticut, to consider a new Fair Rent Commission ordinance as follows. And it is attached.
Thank you for that.
The 14th day of December 2023.
Thank you for that, Noel. And with that, it's a rather, comprehensive sort of a thing that's been transmitted by state law to be considered by communities of 25,000 or more. Our ordinance committee has reviewed this with the town attorney, and essentially, I've only reviewed it based on what they've said to me. I wouldn't be capable of answering too many questions tonight. I just would be unable to do that. I'll rely on our ordinance chair, David Bowery, and of course, our town attorney, Jeff D'Onofrio. So with that, I will just simply indicate that tonight is a question and answer session for any among the group, the audience, I should say, that might have a question they would like to direct through the chair to these two individuals I've mentioned for answers and whatever. And the council doesn't really answer the questions, so to speak. We take in the information you want to provide, your opinions and everything else. And so with that, if there's anything else, Jeff, you would want to state or you would want to state in advance, just so the public has a better understanding what this is all about, feel free to go on.
No, I think you covered it, Mr. Chairman. This is a proposed ordinance that is in compliance with Public Act 22-30, which amended Connecticut General Statute 7-148B and required by July 1st of 2023, as you indicated, that municipalities with populations in excess of 25,000 adopt an ordinance that is in compliance with the requirement of the act concerning Fair Rent Commission. So it's with that legal mandate that the Ordinance Review Committee constructed what you have before you tonight.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Yes, as Jeff had mentioned, and as you, Mr. Chair, had mentioned as well, this is obviously an ordinance which a state law which had been in place for many years for larger municipalities and is now being sort of pushed down to municipalities of 25,000 and up. So it's mostly things that affected what would be considered cities from a population standpoint. Now it's down to, mid-sized municipalities like Cheshire. So this is our first opportunity or first requirements to be having a fair rent commission. And so in conjunction with the Ordinance Review Committee, as well as the town attorney, we have drafted, an ordinance which complies and puts us in sort of compliance with that. But is that we do have time to, if there's changes or other thoughts to take into consideration, we do have up until July 1st to adopt this. So I'm always interested to hear what the public has to say now that they've had an opportunity to have it be put out there and review it. So, as well as other council members.
Right. Well, with that said, thank you, David. Thank you, Jeff. Are there any members of the public that would want to advance a question to the council regarding this or make a comment? Is there any members of the public? You didn't want to sit down and not have a question answered. Okay. So I guess everybody else is here for the presentations of the fire prevention poster contest winners, which is terrific. Okay. So seeing no further questions, I've more or less stated our case that while it's on the agenda for tonight's vote, there will be no action taken, no further conversation by council on the subject, and I will close this public hearing. Terrific. We do indeed have one more public hearing. This is a rousing public hearing on the consideration of amendments to library fees, ordinance section 2-9. With that, Noel, if you could read the call.
The Town Council of the Town of Cheshire will hold a public hearing at 7 p.m. on Tuesday, January 10th, 2023, in the Town Hall Council Chambers, 84 South Main Street, Cheshire, Connecticut, to consider amendments to the library fees ordinance section 2-9 as follows.
Very good. As follows is
Just
is the subject of the public hearing. So with that, the subject is who will be presenting? Mr. Belliver.
Please go ahead.
Oh, I was just, thank you very much. I was, this is one that we had discussed in the Ordinance Review Committee because it was, it's a slightly change to how we've been dealing with overdue fines, but I think it's going to be a good opportunity for us to sort of work this better and have a better interaction with the public through the library. So with that, I don't know, Sean, do you want to talk about it, or Beth? Or
Yeah, our library director, Beth Piezzo, almost said Crowley, recently married. Beth Piezzo is here and can give a brief presentation if that's okay,
Perfect.
Mr. Chair.
Welcome, Beth. Congratulations on your new name. Good.
Thank you, Chairman Slocum. Thank you, Ordinance Community Chair Belliber, and the rest of the Town Council. Just to get you up to where we are and why we're here tonight, in January of 2019, the American Library Association passed a resolution asking that libraries forego the practice of charging fees for overdue materials. And they feel that this is a punitive measure that creates a barrier to access, which is an equity issue. So aside from creating a negative customer service experience at the desk, we noticed that charging fines also sometimes results in materials not coming back at all. And we also noticed a correlation between the last date that someone used the library and the application of a large bill, which is when someone's had a item out for a long time, it then translates into a bill, which would be the replacement cost of that material. So that can get quite high. So historically, revenue from our overdue fines represented only about 0.6% of our budget. Materials returned late do not represent a financial loss to the library, but materials never returned at all certainly does. So we would much rather not charge an overdue fine, what I do consider to be a punitive measure, versus having to replace items that never come back. So to that end, on December 16, 2019, the Cheshire Library Advisory Board approved a motion at their regular meeting to support the Cheshire Public Library to become fine-free, with the final plan to be approved by the Town Council and, of course, by the ordinance, as why we're here tonight. The town council, through the FY21 budget process, approved the elimination of overdue fines as a COVID relief measure. And then that measure has been retained through the preceding two budgets. Since that time, many libraries across the nation, including the New York Public Library System, have gone fine-free. And as of January 1st, 2023, in Connecticut, 118 libraries out of 176, or 67%, have adopted fine-free policies. Prior to going fine-free, and this is everybody's concern when you talk about this, well, why are people going to bring books back if they're not being charged a fine? Our average return rate was 12.7 days before the due date. So most people want to be responsible and bring their books back on time, as we can see by our statistics. In the 2.5 years since we've been fine-free, that return rate has stayed steady at 12.3%. 12.3 days before the due date. So we have not had any issue with books coming back on time. In addition, before we went fine-free, our monthly return rate for billed materials, so now we've gotten a bill, the items haven't come back, the return rate of those materials was 61% of everything that had been billed. Since we've gone fine-free, that's gone up to 70%. So we are trending in a good direction of somebody gets a bill, they know they're not going to have to pay their fines if they bring it back in good condition, and they are bringing it back. And I hope that that will continue as we move forward with this. So as the library has suffered no negative result from not charging fines, but rather has seen improvement in overdue return rates and patron satisfaction, and as this outdated practice is a barrier to providing equal access, at its regular meeting on November 21st, 2022, the Cheshire Library Advisory Board passed a motion reaffirming their recommendation that the library continue as a fine-free operation. So I am here to ask tonight that this ordinance reflect that practice.
Thank you very much. I think that lays it out very, very well. And it was nice because originally when it came up, we had some of the same questions, well, how is this going to affect that? But as you've laid out the statistics and the facts, it seems that this may actually be helping return some of those things. I think it was an interesting point that you raised, which is that, when people get fined for a book, their theory, first off, they're like, I'm never going back again. I'm embarrassed to show my face in the library. But that they then keep the material. Said, if I'm going to get fined for it anyway, I might as well just keep it. And I'm not going back. So I think that this opens up the opportunity to allow them to come back, continue to use the library, and we get the material back more often as a result of that, which is less expensive than the fines that we're going to get from finding them anyway. So, so one other question I do is, what happens when somebody doesn't return something? When they don't return, so what's the process for that?
So after a period of time, and depending on if people have holds on the material, generally people will get a couple of automatic renewals, which extends their time. Once we've hit that limit, then they will receive a bill for the materials. If they bring the materials back in good condition, when we are charging fines, they would pay the overdue fine fee, which was far less than what the replacement cost would be. If they've lost the materials or they have damaged the materials, then we would charge them the replacement fee, or we also allow them to buy an exact copy off of Amazon or somewhere, and then we can take that as a replacement.
Thank you.
Without charging fines, if they simply can bring the material back in good condition, then that's it. It's just you bring the book back and you're done.
Perfect. Thank you.
I had one thing, Beth, two things, actually. I know you've been trying this out for 2 years, and I guess my big question is there a penalty for not changing the ordinance 2 years ago? That's just a joke. But apparently not. And two, what really took us so long? We all saw Seinfeld episode regarding the library penalties and have laughed about it for probably 15, 20 years now. But again, just another comment. So beyond that, I think it's probably a good idea. Are there members of the public that have a question, comment, criticism, or endorsement of this proposed change in ordinance? Okay. I think I will bend any rules. Go ahead and ask a question.
No, in this thing, there's a category for museum passes and there's a charge for overdue. Can you just explain that to me?
Sure, that's a good question. So the one item that we have left retaining in overdue fine is the museum passes. And the reason for that is because we only have one or maybe two passes, and those are those can only be used by one person at a time for those specific dates. And it's a very truncated period of time. It's like 3 days. It's pick it up, go use it at the museum, and then bring it back. And if it's not back, what we run into is, then somebody else can't use it. So we felt it was important to keep a stronger incentive on that material to come back on time in those cases. They're also about, they can range to be up to like $200 for each of those passes. They're paid for by the Friends of the Library through the donations that they give us every year. And, certainly we don't want people to lose them. And, we do appreciate if they come back on time. So that is the only thing we kept.
I don't think there's anyone else who probably in the public thought of another question or comment. So I guess that's sort of a deadpan endorsement. So that'll be something we revisit later in our agenda, but thank you for making your presence known and explaining this topic to us.
Thank you for your time and consideration.
Thank you. And with that, I'll close the public hearing. Okay, we now move on to item 3 on our regular agenda, which is public communications. These are opportunities for us up here to recognize members of the public. And specifically tonight, we begin with the recognition of the 2022 Connecticut Fire Prevention Poster Contest winners. And we have 2 of those to acknowledge and say thank you to this evening. I'm going to start with Natalie Jane Mealart, and she's here. And then I will wrap it up with Leo Niglio. And what I typically do is I go down here and I go to the podium where there's a microphone and I read a proclamation, and you're welcome to join me and we can go up here and stand together. Does that sound good? And we'll do it collectively, if you don't mind, the 2 of you. Hi, guys. I know, it's sort of a bad placement. Okay. This is usually on. You guys look great. You look way too young. How could you do such great things so young?
Yeah, don't mind us. You know.
Okay, Natalie Jane Mealert, I understand your grandfather was a classmate of mine from Cheshire High School 100 years ago. And we're happy to see him in audience. So I'm going to start with this. This is a certificate of recognition for Natalie Jane Mealert, 2022 Connecticut Fire Prevention Poster Contest winner. Whereas the 2022 Connecticut Fire Prevention Poster Contest was recently conducted to promote fire prevention awareness among children and families, and whereas Natalie Jane Mealert, a 5th grade student at Highland Elementary, was selected as one of 2 local winners in this contest. Now, therefore, I, Tim Slocum, Mayor and Chairman of the Town Council, on behalf of the Town Council and all the citizens of Cheshire, do hereby offer our congratulations to you. We also offer our appreciation to Natalie for participating in this contest and helping to spread this important message. Dated today, January 10th, 2023. Thank you. Yours is pretty much the same. And I guess our only disappointment is we don't have pictures of your terrific works, unless we do. Oh, we should have. Come back. Come back. I mean, what's a picture without the person who made it? Where's yours, Natalie? Pick yours up. Yeah. You want to carry that? Well, just wait. We got to do it in some kind of order, but at least they're here. That's good. I didn't know that. Sorry to hold you up, Leo. Okay. Whereas the 2022 Connecticut Fire Prevention Poster Contest was recently conducted to promote fire prevention awareness among children and families, whereas Leo Niglio, a 4th grade student at Norton, I went to Norton, was selected as one of 2 local winners in the contest. Now, therefore, I, Tim Slocum, Mayor and Chairman of the Town Council, on behalf of the Town Council and all the citizens of our town, do hereby offer our congratulations to you, Leo. We also offer our appreciation for participating in this contest and helping to spread this very important message. So here you go, boy. Good job. And why don't you share your pictures? Oh, that's good. Leave this stuff here. These are really great. Come on up here. You can show everyone in the audience.
They're framed and everything.
Oh my gosh, how beautiful.
That's great.
Good artists.
I can never
Right
stand
down
the
here, come a
lines.
little
Yeah,
closer, because we're old,
excellent.
we can't see.
Yeah, it's like,
Right,
our eyes aren't getting
wonderful.
Fantastic.
Wow,
Oh,
very
great.
nice.
Congratulations, colorful and to the point.
And it's especially, Don, I wasn't certain you were in audience, and I'm glad to see you here coming back. I know you've done so many of these over the years, so you probably have some words of wisdom to impart, whatever. Go ahead.
I do. I blend in with the crowd when I sit.
Yes, yes.
down. I'm all legs. So just a little bit about the contest. This is just the beginning. This is the 4th and 5th grade students from Cheshire, including St. Bridget. So they competed with about over 100 Cheshire students, and they're the winners. Leo's got a little bit of family history. His sister Ava, who's in the audience, she was a 4th and 5th grade winner. So there was a lot of pressure on him. But what I'm not going to do is judge their posters against each other. So, but for their awards in Cheshire, they each get a $200 gift card and a ride to school in a fire truck.
Wow. Decent.
So, and but the next step is they go to New Haven County, and they're judged with 4th and 5th graders from New Haven County. And then eventually, if they do good, they're on to the state. So there's about 30,000 students potentially in Connecticut that they're up against, not just local. So, and they've met all the criteria for artwork and the message in their posters, which is pretty hard to do. So
Excellent.
congratulations to them. And they also have certificates from us as well. Thank you for continuing to remember us.
Well, there's a couple of poised kids who probably need to be told to go to your families. Thank you again. Great jobs, and congrats to your families as well. Okay. Our next recognition tonight is the 2022 Connie Wallace Employee Employee of the Year recipient, which this year goes to Hope Larson, an employee in the finance department. And we're not one of Hope's peers, so to speak. We are simply the government bodies, and it's really her peers and her bosses that sort of come together and say, hey, this is the best we have, and we want to let them know it. So with that, Connie, welcome. I'm not you. Hope Larson, welcome. Thank you for coming. I'm going to turn this over to your fearless boss and leader. And Jim, if he wants to say anything, if Jim Jascott's in the room, and you guys go at it.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. As you indicated, this is the presentation of the Connie Wallace Employee of the Year, named after longtime employee, the late Connie Wallace. This is the 25th annual recognition. What I think is wonderful about this honor is there are ballots produced based on nominations, and there are the election is done by, as you said, all of the peers, all the fellow employees for the town of Cheshire. And this year's recipient is incredibly deserving. Hope Larson, our budget and treasury analyst. As you said, a lot of what Hope does goes on behind the scenes. So while you may not have a lot of interaction, as you indicated, she is responsible or plays a role in so many of the documents that you see, a lot of the analysis that you see through our budget process. And I know probably most of you haven't had the pleasure of going through a budget process in another town, but Cheshire's really is second to none in terms of the quality, the attentiveness, the expectations really that are set at the council level, the deep dives that you take in, and really people like Hope are the reason that we're able to give you the information that you need to make informed decisions. Hope is incredibly patient. I think you'll hear that or see that in the proclamation. She helps everybody with whether it's Munis, our financial software, and helps them develop their budget, as she's doing right now with all department heads, working and calculating salary estimates down to the penny so that our documents are as accurate as they possibly could be. And she's incredibly reliable, incredibly trustworthy. Throughout those last few weeks before the budget is due, now in my 5th year doing budgets here in Cheshire, I probably speed dial Hope every other hour and try to get a number or two gleaned or crunched for me. And she's just incredibly patient, wonderful personality, always willing to step in, always willing to step up to a new challenge, as she often does in the finance department. So I do see our finance director, Mr. Jascott, is at the mic, so I will turn it to him really quickly.
Yeah, I just wanted to throw a
Congratulations.
couple of comments out there too, to dovetail with what Sean said. And, I've always felt as though finance department was all about customer service, whether it's taxpayer, member of the public, or just, somebody in another department, staff. And Hope's customer service is absolutely exemplary. She just has an incredible capacity to help other people. And, I can't tell you how many times, I or other members in the finance office have been in crisis mode because there's a glitch with the computer system, or they have to meet a deadline. She's the first one to step up and offer to help them get through whatever it is that they need to get through. Just the kind of employee that I think every employer wants to have, and I'm really lucky to have her in my office. So I can't think of a more deserving person for this award.
That is really nice to hear, and I think certainly the council recognizes the importance of the finance office. I mean, Jim, you as its face, we know how you interface with us so completely in the budget process, and you're at every one of our meetings, and we know that behind every curtain there's a lot of players, and we appreciate that. So with great pride, I'm going to read this certificate of recognition, if I may, for the 2022 Employee of the Year, Hope Larson. The Town of Cheshire annually recognized Connie Wallace Employee of the Year, selected by nominations and ballots of fellow employees and presented to an employee who goes above and beyond. And whereas the 25th Annual Employee of the Year has been presented to Hope Larson, Budget and Treasury Analyst, and whereas Hope has been employed by the town since 2008, she has diligently worked behind the scenes in a pivotal role that has far-reaching impact in the organization. And whereas Hope's approachability, patience, and extensive knowledge have led to her becoming a go-to person in the finance department for a lot of questions and issues that may come up. And whereas Hope consistently produces reliable work products and goes above and beyond in her position, providing excellent service to every department and new employees. Now, therefore, I, Tim Slocum, Mayor and Chairman of the Town Council, on behalf of the entire council and all the citizens of Cheshire, do hereby recognize and congratulate Hope for this well-deserved award, and we offer our sincere appreciation for your exemplary service to our town. Thank you, Hope. I won't make you come again. Well, now we move along to the introduction Richard Gussenberg, who was recently named chairman of the school building committee. A huge job that he must have reluctantly said thank you to being elected, but deservedly so. I'm sure you're going to do a great job, Rich. And with that, take the opportunity to come up and just introduce yourself, and then understand a little later in the agenda, not too far from this, the council is going to have an opportunity to ask you a few little questions here and there in what will become a monthly report from your committee.
More than glad to do that.
Thank you, sir.
Excuse me, I have a cough that I can't seem to get rid of, but we're embarking on a very exciting journey. The committee, the town council, the entire group of people out there in the public. It took us a while to get here, and I know how hard the council worked to make this a reality. So we're just starting as a committee. We've had several meetings up to this point. Jeff Solon got us started. Jeff D'Onofrio spent a good part of our first meeting going through a lot of the legal ramifications and requirements and regulations. And none of our committee members got up and left, so that was a good thing. We are at a point right now where we're just beginning to look for an architect for the projects. And an RFQ for that went out just yesterday. And we're looking towards the end of February, early March, to begin to finalize that process. I know, having built a school once before, people will be driving by the site, and saying, where are the bulldozers? Where's the brick and mortar? The year 2023 is a planning year. And once we have architects on site or hired, once we have a representative, our owner's rep hired, then we'll be working with members of the community and the staff and doing all of the design work. So that's going to take us a good year. And if all goes well, we'll be going out to bid, not this summer, but the summer after. That's the schedule. I'm working hard with the committee to try to stick to that schedule, but our number one thing is to make sure we do this right. And if we can do that and stick to the schedule, that's great. If we need to take a little time to make sure we get the right architects on board and the right plan in place, then that's what we will do. And we're committed to making sure that we get input from a variety of people as we go forward, whether that be staff members who are going to be using the school, parent groups, people who live in the neighborhoods, other agencies such as Park and Rec that will be using the schools, things like that. So we want to make sure that that process is an open enough one that we've listened to all the input as we go. I am more than willing to be available to you at any time. Luckily, I'm a retired gentleman right now, and my wife is more than happy to have me out of the house. So anytime you have any questions or need me to come in, I'll be more than glad to do that, and be more than glad to come once a month and do a report.
What I'm going to ask you to do is, after we get through with a few really short items on the agenda, you probably haven't looked at the agenda, but you will show up, even though it's new business tonight, under old business every monthly meeting that we have. And I think I'd like to use that forum this evening to give council members an opportunity to ask a handful of questions, and with Jeff D'Onofrio's guidance, maybe get a little better feel for how we interface with the group. These are things that I've been getting questions on. I don't have answers to give necessarily. So this is a perfect forum. And I want you to feel comfortable when we get to that, to sit at one of those chairs and with a mic in front of you so you don't have to stand at the podium.
However you'd like.
And we can take it from there. So
Okay.
thank you. We know it's a big job. We know you're up to the task. We know the whole town is up to the task. So we have complete
Wonderful committee,
confidence. Yes,
that we've put together.
Yes.
I'm just here as their spokesman, but
right.
it's a really good group that we've just begun to gel and work together.
Terrific. So with that, I'm going to move along to to any other public comments that a member of the public may want to advance to the council at this time before we move into our regular agenda? Other than the reporter from the Cheshire Herald, I see no one raising. You're taking notes, Peter. Thank you. So with that, we're going to move to item 4, which is the approval of the minutes for December 13, 2022, Town Council meeting with some corrections. May I have a motion?
So moved.
Thank you, Mr. Walsh. A second. Questions, comments? Call for a vote on approval. All those in favor? Opposed? Motion carries unanimously of those present and those at home with Zooming us. So with that, we move to the consent calendar. Mr. Bowery.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Be it resolved that the town council approves resolution 011023-1, the consent calendar for January 10, 2023.
Okay, we have a motion. We have a second from Mr. Jinks. Thank you. It's typical that consent goes voted upon without much commentary. Do you have anything to add, Mr. Budget Chair, or are we all set to go?
No, we're the generous gifts as we have each month, and then also a housing, fair housing policy that we are adopting.
Okay, so with that, I will call for a vote on the motion. All those in favor? Opposed? Motion carries unanimously. With that, we move along to items removed from consent. There are none. We move into old business, and we are going to begin with the Bartlam Park South update. Mr. Marlowe?
Yes, Mr. Chairman. So the project is moving along. Design has been completed, and the project is going out to bid as of tomorrow, I believe, Sean, unless something's changed, with bids due early February. And we're optimistic that we'll get positive bids.
I'm optimistic.
We did, Sean was nice enough to bring a little exhibit of some of the final design elements, all which follow the referendum-approved plan. But one of the things that we focused on was the band shell and the relative size of the band shell to the Great Lawn, and we wanted to make sure that was sized properly and felt well to the site. And so the consultants prepared these renderings to confirm that. And so they're nice illustrations for the council to see.
Indeed, they're very indeed. Any members have a question for John or Sean? Thank you for your report. So, Mr. Gussenberg, this is the point where now it's sort of new business, but it's titled under old business, and that's where school modernization was discarded from. So we're on to the planning and the building and all that other good stuff. What I wanted to just sort of, and give my colleagues plenty of time to have questions for, but what I've been questioned by my colleagues, not all, but many, is what role may the council play other than saying, yeah, we like your architect, we're going to approve it, or whatever on an ad hoc basis, circulating through your meetings. We recognize we don't have a vote, and that we understand by state law. The committee is established by state law and under the guidelines of the state. We understand that we have the town manager and the Board of Education leader, Jeff Solon, as ex officio members, really, I suppose, representing the elective body, since we are their boards of directors. I guess that's the premise behind it, but it's begged the question, where can we play a role? How do we play the role? And I had suggested, well, maybe a place for that role is in an agenda item that might include public communications. Could be a member of the council, could be a member of the Board of Ed, could be a member of the public who may have a question which you would like to engage in. Don't know if that's feasible. Don't know if it's practical. And I know it's also a long-term commitment for all of us, you, your team, and people up here who will go through an election cycle next fall. So given all of that, we wanted to just bring some of those questions to bear. And Jeff, I think maybe you can support this with some answers. I think I also invite my colleagues to ask questions and see how this sort of sorts out in your mind. Rich?
I think one of the things, and Jeff, jump in anytime you want, but one of the things that I talked about when we came, I came for the interview, was the fact that we wanted, as part of this process, to get input from a variety of groups. And when I built the school earlier, we put together advisory committees. We had presentations that we did with the architect during the design phase so that we could get feedback from the various constituencies that are out there. I mentioned the Park and Rec Department. Well, the Park and Rec Department is going to, I'm sure, be using the cafeteria, the gymnasium, and other facilities on a regular basis. You want to make sure that they have a chance to see that plan as it's developing and to let the architect and the committee know what kinds of things they're looking for. I think the same is true as we begin to do the design with people in the neighborhood, other community groups, and definitely staff members. I would see the same possibility for town council members. Be more than glad as the process is coming along, rather than wait until it's all done and say, here it is, but to give you a sense of the development of that process as we're going. And that may be having the architect come in a couple of times as the design is moving along and say, here's where we're at now. Give us some feedback that you have and some ideas that you may have along the way. You're in touch with a lot of people out in the community. We want to hear that. When this is all done, I really want the people in the community to step back and say, I'm really proud of what we have. This is a wonderful addition to the town. It's a school which is going to be something that we're proud of for decades to come, and that will be, really well used by the community. So that's just my thought. I don't, Jeff, I don't know if there's anything, what the legal requirements are in terms of the council.
Well, I mean, typically, in terms of legal requirements, there aren't any. The building committee is established as required by state statute to oversee and, in essence, conduct the design and construction of the projects. But the typical practice in municipalities where there's a town council or a board of aldermen as a legislative body is to have the chairman of the building committee or his or her designee on a monthly basis update the council as to what's going on. So during the procurement stages, once you have a recommendation for the award of a contract to an architect, award of a contract to a construction manager, award of a contract to an owner's rep, et cetera, you'll be presenting those to the council. During the design phase, the design phase consists of schematic design, design development, and construction documents. You'll get 4 cost estimates. You'll get a cost estimate at the end of schematic design, cost estimate at the end of design development, 50% construction documents, 100% construction documents. You'll be briefing during that long design period of about 10 months or so. You'll be briefing the council when you come in monthly to say, hey, we got a schematic design estimate. Here's what it is. We're engaged in value engineering for the next couple of weeks. Here's the design development estimate. We're engaged in value engineering, so that the town council and the public that watches the meetings or listens to the meetings has the opportunity to understand. But really, if the public has questions that are specific in nature, they should be directed to the building committee. The building committee meetings are public meetings. I think you've put a public comment section on your agendas. So to the extent the public has questions about the design or the schedule or what's going on, that's the place to really ask the question. So really what you're doing is providing an executive summary of, current events from your last meeting to this meeting, each time you come in front of the council. And then to the extent that the council has questions, they can have any questions that are addressed to you answered here.
Thank you, Rich, and thank the other 6 members of your committee who have accepted and committed themselves to this next 3 years. And it's not going to be an easy task, but we appreciate the time and effort you guys are all going to be putting into this. Couple questions I did have. One was, you said you're going to be getting communications from different groups and stuff. Have you set up a way for people to communicate with your group through emails and things like that, or will
Not
that?
yet.
So that because I think the public's going to need to know, they want to send you an email, where are they going to send it, and how do they get it to you so that you can respond to these questions? Because not everybody's going to go to the meetings, I'm sure. And second, the way you're doing the owners rep group, does it, you don't pick that until after the architect? That's further down the line? Is that when that's going to happen?
Well, it's happening at almost the same time, but we've gone out for the RFQ on the architect this week, and our meeting tomorrow and Thursday, this coming Thursday, we'll be looking at and hopefully finalizing the RFQ for an owner's rep. It was discussed, and it was felt that we really wanted to move ahead with trying to get the architect's information in hand as quickly as we could. So that's why we pushed that one first.
Well, that makes sense. I think
And that
getting
was
the
Jeff's
architects first
recommendation also.
is important. The owner's rep can come after that, but that's all I have for now. Thanks.
Any other questions? I had one. Oh, sorry. Peter, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Rich, congratulations or condolences.
Thank you, Peter.
And I'll echo Mr. Walsh's comments that the entire council appreciates the efforts of the whole committee. You talked about putting out the RFQ for the architect. Was there or is there any consideration being given to having a separate architect for each one of the schools?
That's a decision that'll be made once we have the presentation. There's 2 separate RFQs that goes out, one for Norton School, one for the New North School. And it is possible when we see who is interested in the project, and we will pick up to 4 different companies to interview potentially for each project. We could interview up to 8, but we could go with a smaller number than that. And, you know, it is possible that we could end up with a larger firm that we feel could do a great job doing both, or we could go with 2 separate firms. So at the moment, though, that's not a decision that's been made. The RFQ, there's a separate one for each building.
Thank you.
I'd just like to follow up with Peter's question. In that decision as to whether you choose 1 or 2 architects, is that based on, do you go out and look at other other communities that have done multiple projects to get some feedback as to what the pros and cons of those things are? How do you make that determination to choose one
There's a
or 2?
process, and, you know, Jeff can jump in on this. There's a process that's laid out in state law.
Okay.
And the original RFQ essentially says we're interested in anyone who can meet these qualifications, and it's all very clearly spelled out. And our attorney gave us a very detailed listing for the RFQ as to what we're looking for in an architect. We will go through those applications, and from that, as I said, pick up to 4 per building that we would interview. Once we've seen those presentations, once we've done those interviews, then obviously, or not obviously, but then the next step would be for us to be talking to references, visiting schools, making sure that the company that we're looking at is going to be a good, you know, meld for Cheshire.
And just to follow up to that, once you do that, you're sending out the RFQs for owner reps, the next one that you're working on this week,
Right.
correct? So is there any wisdom about making sure that the owner's reps are going to work well with the architects? Or is that something you can't control? You just choose the best one? How does that work?
I would hope that, we will have good professional people that'll work well together and we'll be a team when we're all done. I mean, that's what we're looking for. The timeline is such that we're a little bit ahead with the architect piece than we are with the owner's rep. I'm not certain, but it's probable that we will be choosing an architect before we've chosen the owner's rep. So part of the discussion with a prospective owner's rep would be, here's the architect that we have on board, and have you worked with this person before, or can you work with this person? And, as I said, we want to make sure that it's a good team that's going to operate together.
And again, I echo what everybody said. You guys have a big job ahead of you, and I congratulate you for all stepping up to it. And we will be anxious to follow along.
Thank you.
Just a couple of quick questions, Richard. So thank you for taking this on. Of course, I did, as we said earlier, I did get to work with you briefly on the building commission, and now you've taken on this new role, which is very important. And also to the rest of the members of our school building committee. Just a couple minor things, maybe major. Did we consider not using an owner's rep as an option? Are we committed to doing that? Is that something that we have to do by state requirements? Same thing with the construction manager. Are we considering not using the construction manager or using one? I'm asking questions that I know certain things are prescribed, but other things are up to us. How are we handling those?
The owner's rep, as I understand it, is not required.
Correct.
But the committee at this point in time is very eager to have somebody who is overseeing the process and is there with a detailed knowledge and representing us and making sure that, all those little details are being followed. The CM, there's a couple of different models that are out there, and we've talked about it. We have not yet moved to put together an RFQ at all, but it appears that we have a particular model in mind. It's called CM at Risk, which Jeff has talked about, but maybe Jeff, you could.
From a
jump in.
project delivery perspective, most of the schools in Connecticut, especially when you're talking about new construction, are built using the CM at Risk project delivery method. No schools are done design build in Connecticut. State won't allow it. Probably until the late 90s, most schools were done either with a general contractor, design bid build, architect GC, or I still can't get over the fact that this was done in so many municipalities, CMA, which is not a project delivery method. It's a form of project delivery where the owner hires a construction manager advisor and then the owner holds the trade contracts. There's not a municipality in the state of Connecticut that has the staff to act as a general contractor. In terms of the owner's rep, usually if you have a project, say in excess of $10 million, the municipality is not set up to handle internally the paperwork that results from a significant project. When you're talking about two projects simultaneously, the monthly payment applications alone, when you're considering, putting $160 million worth of work into the ground, are going to be more than a typical internal staff could handle. The real value from the owner's rep is having somebody whose only allegiance is to the owner. And the reality of the construction industry is that most CMs, most GCs are more loyal to their subs than they are to the owners. So the owner's reps, if the scope is written correctly, you don't need a scope that duplicates what the CM is doing. The CM provides a level of pre-construction management in terms of participation in the development of the budget, the schematic design development, and construction documents phases, as well as participation in value engineering and in preparing a schedule that a general contractor doesn't provide. So that's why overwhelming project delivery method for schools in Connecticut over the last 15 years or so has been CM at risk.
And I understand that as well, but I only asked that because I'd asked the school building committee to be as pragmatic as possible as they look at this process, to not assume anything is correct. I know the state has a prescribed process and they like things to be done their way. But their way often becomes cumbersome and can get us into trouble. And the last thing I want us to do is to just become complacent, like this is the only way we can get things done. We have to do it this way. I'd like to always have the committee ask, do we really have to do it this way? Do we have options and choices? So we don't find ourselves over budget, past time, all the things that we regret later on. As a council, we approved the budget and the scope of the project to go to referendum. We're committed to meeting those expectations when the project comes in. And we want the building committee to be looking at this in the same way, that they question everything along the way. Don't assume because it's been done that way in the past, that's the only way to do it or the best way to do it.
It's good coaching. Excellent.
The one comment that I would make is that when you consider the state piece of it, okay, and this is something that I talked about at the first building committee meeting, the state piece of it is the grant. And the trick to maximizing eligibility for reimbursement. See, everybody talks about we're getting X million dollars. That's the maximum that you can get, okay? In order to get the maximum, you have to achieve a level of eligible costs. That's the key. And the key to making sure that you achieve that level of eligible costs is by complying with the Office of School Construction Grants and Review processes. There's certain things that they've really cracked down on in recent years, like change orders. If you don't submit your documents for a change order within 6 months of when the beginning of the change order process began, what ends up happening is you get reimbursed on your monthly progress payment basis for that change order because it's in your reimbursement request to the state for progress payments. But then when you have an audit, 5, 10, 15 years, we're still doing the North Haven High School audit. The project was substantially complete September 2005, okay? Years later, when everyone's gone, except the lawyer, they will say to you, well, you didn't submit this change order request on time, so we reimbursed you. You got to give us money back, which is the nightmare. The nightmare isn't getting your full 90 million or whatever it is you think you're getting from the state. The nightmare is getting the full reimbursement and then them coming back 10 years from now and saying, oh, we overpaid you by 5 million. So there's a lot of that going on. Because one of the big issues up there is the rules change. The rules change every so often. You know, now computers are not eligible for reimbursement. Printers are not eligible. Any portable electronics are not eligible for reimbursement. For the first 30 years of the program, all technology was eligible. They decided it's not eligible anymore. So, you know, having your documents be pristine is really, really important. Being able to find things when you have the audit is really, really important. So for me, the value of the owner's rep really is in having somebody that can collect all of the documents, make sure that all the stuff that Councilman Malone talked about happens, right? That the things that need to happen schedule-wise and budget tracking and tracking owner's contingency and all the little things that happen behind the scenes to have a successful project. I mean, quite frankly, you want to know how you have a successful project? You micromanage it. Okay? That's how you have a successful project because there's too much money involved and there's too many people involved. And if you don't micromanage it, it doesn't work. Now, I've had a lot of building committees say to me, what do we need to hire an owner's rep for? Because, you know, we've got a construction manager, we've got an architect, we got a commissioning agent, we got an independent materials testing lab, we got a special inspector. This building committee wants to hire the owner's rep immediately. So I'm telling them, you know, slow down a little bit. Let's get an architect. Let's get a design going. Let's see what kind of project we're going to have. So I understand what you're saying. And I think that the building committee, certainly based on the first couple of meetings, They ask a lot of questions, and they don't really have any idea of the way things were done in the past. And they've got a lot of good industry experience, a good mix of backgrounds on the committee. I think you did a really good job putting together the committee. Because I think 2 schools at once, that's the thing people forget. 1 school is a heavy lift. 2 schools at once is a big deal. And, you know, picking the architect and making sure that if you're going to consider the same architect for both projects, likewise owner's rep, likewise construction manager, those are major decisions. Because if you've got one team doing 2 schools and it turns out to be a bad team, you have double the problems. So whatever it is, we'll deal with it. You know, we know how to build a school. We'll get they're elementary schools. That's the good news. They're not high schools or middle schools, which are more difficult to build. But I think, you know, you got a good committee, you got a good chair. I think you're off to a great start. So I'll shut up now.
And by the way, I do concur that an owner's rep makes sense here. And I only asked the question because I want to be asking those questions. Even if they're obvious, I'm asking the committee to always ask the question, understand it, and make decisions not based upon what was always done in the past, but what makes sense for the town of Cheshire under these conditions, under this referendum requirements, because it can, as Jeff said, and Jeff has much more experience than many around here, it can get complicated and it can get off track easily. So.
And I've had the opportunity to build an elementary school and know that the owner's rep was absolutely essential. Having somebody on site during the construction, having somebody keep notes of, you know, what subs were there, what issues came up, and knowing that that person wasn't the CM who was focusing on his subs and his bottom line, but was focusing instead on our needs and making sure that our bottom line is being watched. That owner's rep was essential, and I'm sure more than paid for himself in the project that I did earlier.
Mr. Jinks.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And Rich, hello. Good to see you
Thank
here. You and I have worked together in a few capacities over the years. So when I heard that you made the committee and also chairmanship, I was very pleased. We're in very good hands with Rich at the helm here. As far as, and Jeff mentioned micromanaging, that the council certainly isn't going to micromanage, but I do wonder, as far as the committee communicating with us and also with the public, I assume there will be minutes of the meetings, but I also wonder if you guys have thought about some other sort of brief report or something that could be put out to the public with each meeting or monthly that also the council would be privy to as well.
Yeah, the meetings are all videotaped, and there are minutes of all the meetings, and those are all posted. And we did have one very brief conversation when we elected our secretary in terms of what kind of communication we want to begin to develop, but we really haven't delved into that yet. Remember, we've only had 3 meetings. The first meeting was really here's what the law is, and here's where we're at, and here's how we got to this point. And then we've had a couple of meetings just getting up and running in terms of, getting the RFQ put together, things like that. So, we are looking down the line to make sure that we have some way of communicating the process. As I said, I know that people in the community will get anxious. I hear it now in terms of the Bartlam project, how come that's not started yet? What's taking so long? That'll happen, and that's going to happen with the schools also. People don't quite understand that you don't pass a referendum and then send the bulldozers. We'll be looking at some ways of presenting information, but we have to do it within the legal guidelines also, in terms of just putting some factual information out on whether it's setting up a Facebook page or, some things like that.
I think to Jim's point, because it was certainly going to be one of my questions, I think the fact that you're going to make a monthly report to the council is important, and you're obviously prepared to do that. I think we know that there's minutes. Minutes could be distributed to members of the council. I'm sure staff can do that, as well as the Board of Ed. I think that would be helpful. I know I went looking around on YouTube for your last meeting, and it wasn't there. Don't know that it was videotaped, but I know we've got one guy that does all that, and he's probably got his hands full most of the time.
Our regular meetings were all videotaped and put on. Our last meeting, which was a special meeting, we did not.
Oh, that was in fact
contact
special?
Mike.
Okay. I was
However-
aware there was a meeting.
But Jeff Solon did record it through his computer, and my understanding it is posted now. Yeah.
Oh,
So-
okay.
So all the
Because-
meetings have been posted.
Yeah, because I think that's a valuable tool that's, I know there's usually 35 viewers tops for a council meeting. So, but at least there's 35 attempts to see something that's value. So, okay, as long as that's happening, that's terrific. And then the other thing you could probably share with us, where are you typically meeting when you have your
Right downstairs,
posted
room
meetings?
207, is it?
Okay,
Yeah.
so you're meeting in town hall on the prescribed dates. I know that I had asked that your schedule, which I think was a 2-year schedule that you guys put out there, be shared with the council. So there was a list distributed to us of all their
It's
meetings.
the second and fourth Thursday of every
Right.
month, except for the week of Thanksgiving, where it's the fifth Thursday.
Right,
Other than that, second and fourth. As I said, last Thursday was a special meeting, one item. It was about a 30-minute meeting just to get the RFQ finalized and out. But other than that, we'll be meeting the second and fourth. Now, we'll have other special meetings when we're doing interviews and, things like that.
Right.
But we have a calendar that has been sent out and I believe is all posted at this point.
I guess, and finally, if there's not another question from my colleagues, I've encouraged and continue to encourage colleagues to attend the meetings as they so choose. I don't really want to designate from this chair, 1 or 2 people to go to a meeting, but I would welcome as many to join in on a meeting if they so desire, just to be witness to what goes on and get better informed, understanding that our role is really observational for the most part.
Well, the meetings are all public.
Right.
Obviously, council members are more than welcome. Sean is a voting member.
Right.
An ex officio voting member. So he is in at all those meetings and
Right.
can report back to you as you please also.
Right. Terrific. We have all confidence in you. It's really not, these questions are born of our own same place in the boat.
This is a big
It's a
project.
new boat. It's a new thing. I think we all want to carry an oar or have an oar to guide it and direct it and hope that it goes through as it should. So this is helpful. I appreciate it. And I guess with that, I'll just say thank you and we'll see you next month.
Okay. Very
Thank you,
good.
sir.
Thank you very much.
Now move to new business. We have A, the acceptance and appropriation of the second installment of $75,000 from the John G. Martin Foundation to be used for the John G. Martin Foundation Outdoor Education Center at Mixville. Mr. Bowery.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Be it resolved that the town council approves resolution 011023-2. Be it resolved that the town council accepts and appropriates the second installment of $75,000 from the $150,000 total donation from the John G. Martin Foundation to be used for the John G. Martin Foundation Outdoor Education Center at Mixville Park.
We have a motion. We have a second. Thank you, Ms. Nichols. Discussion?
Mr. Chairman, the Budget Committee reviewed this earlier, and we received a report from the town manager that the project is moving along very well, soon to be completed, actually, and the weather has helped to make it more practical to be able to get a lot of the work done in the final stages, so it'll be all set. Park and Rec's excited to have it for the programs that'll be coming up for the spring and summer.
Terrific. Any questions? Okay. Call for a vote on this. All those in favor? Motion carries unanimously. We now move along to B, which is the acceptance and appropriation of an additional $10,000 donation from the John G. Martin Foundation to be used to support the John G. Martin Foundation Outdoor Education Center at Mixville Park. Mr. Bowery.
Mr. Chairman, thank you. Be it resolved that the town council approves resolution 011023-3. Be it resolved that the town council accepts and appropriates an additional $10,000 donation from the John G. Martin Foundation to be used for the John G. Martin Foundation Outdoor Education Center at Mixville Park.
We have a motion. We have a second. Ms. Pavano, thank you. Discussion.
Mr. Chairman, the budget was tight for the project. Not the best time, having gone out for projects, with the COVID and all the issues with getting materials and things. So the budget was very tight. The original budget was 150,000. In the motion, I previously said total donation of 150. That's the total original donation of 150,000. This $10,000 is to allow other items that were originally envisioned with the project to be able to be done and completed and make it a really nice premier facility. And hopefully this will go as far as was originally anticipated in terms of items and attributes and things for this project.
Thank you for that. Any questions, comments? Okay, I'll call for vote on that. All those in favor? Motion carries unanimously. We now move along to C, which is the appointment of a labor attorney. Ms. Bavano.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. It's my pleasure to make this resolution. Be it resolved that the Town Council approve Resolution 011-023-4. Be it resolved that Town Council hereby appoints Ryan and Ryan LLC as special labor counsel for the town pursuant to the attached agreement, and be it further resolved that the Town Council authorizes the execution of an agreement for said legal services pursuant to the Town Charter, Section 5-1, and the terms as presented and discussed.
Thank you. We have a motion. We have a second. Thank you, Mr. Jinks. Discussion.
Yes, this has been a lengthy process. We actually interviewed for different firms. Each firm had at least 10 questions. We asked the same questions of each firm. From that process, we brought the 4 interviews down to before the planning committee, and we unanimously chose one, Ryan and Ryan, to forward to the town council to meet with the town council for the second interview. At that point, the town council did meet and unanimously approved the firm of Ryan and Ryan, and we look forward to working with them. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Ms. Pavano, for that report. Mr. Broward?
Just a question. It doesn't have a date in here unless I'm missing something.
You mean the effective date?
The effective date. What were we planning on doing?
Presumably tonight's vote would make it effective.
Effective immediately then? Okay.
Shouldn't be a cooling off period.
Well, that's true. Okay, thank you.
Just a guess. Anything else? Jeff, we gave you at least a month before we decided on you, but there we go. Good time to leave. Okay. Any further questions, comments, or insertions to the conversation? Okay, I'll call for a vote on that. All those in favor? Well, we got a new team in town. That's terrific. Thank you. Okay, we move along to D, which is the reappointment of Chamber of Commerce President Yetta Auger as Cheshire's rep to the Board of Directors of the Central Regional Tourism District. Mr. Talbot.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Be it resolved that the town council approves resolution 011023-5. Be it resolved that the town council reappoints Cheshire Chamber of Commerce President Yetta Auger as Cheshire's representative to the Board of Directors of the Central Regional Tourism District for the term December 1, 2022 through December 1st, 2024. Mr. Chair, the only thing I would say is, unlike our Cheshire boards and commissions where we do appointments, this is a regional board and requires a town council resolution.
Any further discussion?
One comment, I think that Yetta does a fantastic job of, at the chamber. You're always reading about all the events and all the new businesses that are coming in town. And I'd like to thank her for all the work that she does.
Okay, so with that, I'll call for a vote. All those in favor? Vote carries unanimously. Welcome aboard again. So now we go to E, which is the appointment of a new member to the Sustainable Connecticut Team. Ms. Nichols.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Be it resolved that the Town Council approves Resolution 011023-6. Be it resolved that the Town Council appoints Jocelyn Theriot to the Town of Cheshire Sustainable Connecticut Team to replace the vacancy of Doug Noble.
Thank you, Ms. Nichols. Thank you, Don. Anything to say about?
Nothing, I support the nomination of Jocelyn. She currently interns with Cheshire Human Services. She's working toward a Master of Social Work degree, but more importantly, she has a personal interest in the sustainability situation, and she has been very involved with that committee to develop some of the sustainable Cheshire things to date. So be a good fit for that committee.
Great. Okay, with no further questions, comments, or whatever, I'll call for a vote. All those in favor? Motion carries unanimously. Welcome aboard, and we thank you for your service. With that again, we move to F, which is the conflict of interest notifications and disclosures. I will simply remind my colleagues, they received in their packet, as they do the beginning of each calendar year, as does all of the boards elected or appointed in the town of Cheshire, the regulation out of the charter, which covers conflicts of interest and the code of ordinances. So they're in your packets, essentially. Members should know, and I would say respectfully do know, that when they have to step aside for reasonable conflict, they're entitled to do so and expected to do so. And there's other things in here too that we obviously have to abide by. And so this again is just kind of like saying the Apostles' Creed at church every Sunday, only we do this once a year. And here we go. So with that, nothing to vote on, just something to live by. We now move along to G, the approval of the bidding requirements. Mr. Bowery.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Be it resolved that the Town Council approves Resolution 0112. Am I reading the wrong thing?
No.
Okay, it's the same numbers. Okay, 011223-7. 7 still the right number? Okay. Be resolved that pursuant to Section 7-8C1 of the Town Charter, the Town Council maintains the requirements for sealed bids for February 1, 2023 through January 31, 2024 at $20,000 bid limit for non-construction related services and a $40,000 bid limit for construction related services. And only because of the number issue, I'll read the rest. Be it resolved, further resolved that in accordance with Section 7-8C9 and Section 7-8C10 of the Town Charter, the Town Council authorizes the town manager, his designee, and the public schools, Cheshire Public Schools, to purchase goods or services for the town without bids, 1, through the State of Connecticut Department of Administrative Services, and 2, through or in conjunction with other municipalities, qualified bids, RFPs, and regional and federal government purchasing entities, including but not limited to the list here.
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Bowery. Thank you, Mr. Walsh. This again is something we do on an annual basis, so right around now. And with that, any questions, comments? Okay, call for a vote on this. All those in favor? Motion carries unanimously. Next is the review of the special appropriation dollar limits. Again, Mr. Bowery.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The Budget Committee met and had a discussion earlier this evening. We are at the 5-year point that the town charter says we may review the amount of appropriation limits, the limit of $250,000 that would allow us to have just a public hearing or spend under $150,000 without going to referendum, but $250,000 to $500,000, we have to have a public hearing, and then we may authorize that amount. Over $500,000 has to go to a public hearing. The discussion we had earlier was, first of all, the 5 years went pretty fast. So it came up to us. We really weren't thinking quite of this. Let's go through the next budget process with an eye towards whether we want to raise these amounts or not. Generally, they would go to about 300,000 and 600,000 roughly if we were to raise the limits. I don't think that, well, I know that would not have changed anything in the last year or so. There was part of the discussion about not wanting to take away citizens' rights to have vote on items. But then there was also discussion on wanting to not diminish the purchasing power that the council has the authority and number of projects and size projects that we have the authority to do. So the thought was, let's go through the budget process. Let's go through the spring. We can revisit this after we've gone through the process, knowing that this could change and just decide if we want to or not, and what effect it might have. That was our unanimous recommendation.
Terrific. That's a very good explanation. Unless colleagues have a question.
Anybody?
Okay.
They're all waking up.
Terrific.
My explanation.
They're now looking forward to the capital budget. So with that, I'll call for a vote. All those in favor?
Is there a vote? Actually, there wasn't a vote. We were just saying we're not going to take
Oh,
action.
I support it, though.
Okay, good.
Okay, so,
Thanks.
so my hand goes up and you guys prefer it. So, okay, fine. Thank you for that.
We're keeping the limits as they are.
We are,
Correct.
and I was looking for the motion, didn't see it.
Yeah,
but That's
that's right.
terrific. Well, thank you very much. Now we're going to go to I, which is discussion approval of income levels for the 2023 local elderly tax credit program. David Bowery again.
Thank you. The Budget Committee a couple months ago reviewed this. The council as a whole agreed with this, but this is the actual implementation of the program with the new dollar amounts, is substantially increased dollar amounts of people's income that they could then qualify, and the substantial increase in the amount of credit they would get. And therefore, be it resolved that the town council approves resolution 011023-8. Be it resolved that the town council approves the following changes to the property tax relief qualifying incomes in the ordinance, section 17-6A2 and 17-6A3 for the 2022 grand list as presented.
Dave, quick question. I know whenever we do these, I guess one of the big questions always is, has there been an estimate as to what the impact might be budget-wise?
We did expect we had an expectation that it would probably be about another $150,000 additional in relief, if I remember correctly. And we just don't know because we're increasing the amount so much.
Yeah, and just to clarify too, that we did approve those at our prior, I guess now 2 meetings ago. It's in the intervening time, the state put out their new levels. So what this does is we haven't changed the upper level, but it does true up, so there's no confusion. The new levels, we match our income ranges to those that the state puts out every, I think it was December 5th. So that action by the state happened after our last approval. So hence, this cleans it up and puts it in line with the state's numbers. But to that point, so that we didn't increase the potential impact, we kept the proposal here is to keep that maximum level the same. So the effect would be the same. The underlying levels would change just very slightly.
And as a follow-up question to that, so just for clarification purpose, so if you had a single person who qualified who had income of, let's say, $39,000, they're under this, what would be the fourth category, the $33,000 to $40,000 category. So they would have a credit off their taxes of $1,235.
That would be correct.
So they whatever their taxes would be minus that. So I just want to clarify. So it's not so it's coming off what their effective tax bill is then reduced by this credit.
Correct.
Thank
I also have a question.
Sure.
What income year? Because an income level ends in December and we have a tax year that starts the 6 months before.
It's for the prior year's prior calendar year.
That
So
way.
income generated or received in 2022 is your income. And these forms actually start going out next month.
Yeah,
So-
and that's what they're bringing to town hall is
Exactly.
last year's 1099, whatever
Right,
it was,
or
whatever
tax
their tax
return,
filing
or if they
was.
don't do a whole
Right.
tax return,
Right.
what their income is, and they certify that all they had was whatever the 1099.
Right, so they don't have
SSA
to
or
rush
whatever
and
showed.
get their taxes filed early and hope they show up in time and
Yep.
the whole 9 yards.
Yep.
Okay, thank you for that. Any questions? Just one more?
you. So just as a clarification to your question, I'm sure. So in theory, if they had a credit coming, as long as they get it in, so this will start showing up on their July 1 tax bill, right? The first tax bill.
Yes.
Yeah, so the,
600 off, for that example, you use $617 off.
Right.
First one and $617 off, but it all, you get the bill all at once.
right.
You're just told you can split the payment.
Right, but I'm saying, but it shows up on the, even though, so they get it in now, they may have their tax return, obviously they file by at least April, mid-April. They would still qualify to get that in order for their tax bill that's gonna come in July 1st. This is gonna
Which
apply
gets
to that.
mailed out in June. The deadline is, I think, April or May for
Okay.
this to be in. They start in February, right, Sean? Or Jim? Or, oh,
Our assessors back
yes.
here in the audience.
Hi, good. How are you? Sorry, didn't see me. I didn't.
May 15th is the deadline.
May 15th. Okay. So plenty of time for
Get
tax
your tax
returns to be
returns.
timely filed, if that's what they're doing, or to have their income information. And then plenty of time for staff to be able to make sure that we get the bills out correctly.
I just wanted to say, first of all, I'm glad we've done this. I know, as all of us have probably heard from some seniors, it's tough. It's tough in this town at times. And with the new schools coming in, they're concerned about that. So I'm glad that we are doing this. My preference is I wish the state would stop calling it elderly, because as we get older, I prefer a senior, but I believe it's a 65. Is that the age that? No, well, is that what this is starting at? Is that what they consider elderly? 65, okay.
And totally disabled too.
And totally disabled, yes. Yep, okay, thank you.
So I guess there's no avoiding the fact that I'm elderly.
We're all getting close to elderly.
I am. Well, I qualify for elderly, that's for sure. Okay, I'm going to call for a vote on this. All those in favor? Motion carries unanimously. Thank you. Thank you. Okay, we now move to J, which is the adoption of amendments to Library Fees Ordinance, Section 2-9. Mr. Veliver.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Be it resolved, council approves resolution 011023-9. Be it resolved that pursuant to the recommendation of the Ordinance Review Committee, the town council approves and adopts amendments to the Library Fees Ordinance, Section 2-9 as follows. A, the following schedule of fees shall pertain to overdue fines and replacement fees charged by the public library. 1, adult materials. No fines will be charged for overdue items returned in good condition. Lost or damaged items will be assessed a fee based on the current replacement cost. 2, children's and teens materials. No fines will be charged for overdue items returned in good condition. Lost or damaged items will be assessed a fee based on the current replacement cost. And 3, museum passes, $10 per day per overdue item, up to the cost of the item, whichever is lowest. B, the library director or his or her designee may from time to time waive individual library fines or replacement fees on a case-by-case basis due to extenuating circumstances. The library director and his or her designee may allow a library patron to purchase an exact replacement copy of an item in lieu of paying the replacement fee. These ordinance amendments will become effective February 1st, 2023.
Thank you very much for that. Thank you, Mr. Walsh, for the second discussion. I know it's the subject of a public hearing. We probably have had ample discussion, but if you so choose.
No, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just wanted to say that we have had a public hearing. Our wonderful library director has had an opportunity to give us an overview of that, and I support this resolution.
Else. Okay, with that, I'll call for a vote. All those in favor? Motion carries unanimously. Excellent. K is an item on the agenda which was removed from the agenda basically by my announcement before the public hearing for all the reasons. But I will restate that it's my hope and expectation that we can meet at 6:30 on January 24th, if that dovetails with everybody's schedule. That is a regular meeting of the council, so it's not a special night out. It's the one we all have to be out anyway. And Jeff, I don't know if that works with your schedule, because we feel you're important for that night. So we can adjust around that. You can get back to us. Well, if we want to move it to 7 and start our regular meeting at, but I stated 6:30, but it could be later and we could adjust. Yeah. You can do that. Okay. Okay. Yeah. And then we can, I think, have the meeting the meetings, if you will, all pulled together with what you guys have done, and we can have our questions. So that works for everybody.
So what will happen, we'll meet, we'll talk about revisions, but any revisions that get incorporated, how will that happen? We'll have to go back to a second public hearing or just?
You know, that's a fair question. I think if there's really material changes to what was indicated tonight, it probably could. So I think we have to do a wait and see. So, and I think that's reasonable because we have time.
So we're going to wait and then talk about our suggestions or.
At that forum,
At that
not
forum,
tonight.
okay.
Okay, so if there's material changes, and there may be, we'll just have another public hearing. So,
Mr. Chair, as we discussed, this does not have to be resolved until July 1st, so we have time to make whatever
Right,
changes. we need.
right. But while it's hot, I thought we should talk about it before we get gnarled in the budget and all that other cycle that goes forward. Okay, thank you for your indulgence. We move to L, which is the acceptance and appropriation of $925,000 round 14 DECD Brownfield grant. It's a pass-through to Ball and Socket, Inc. Mr. Walsh.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Be it resolved that the town council approves resolution number 011023-11. Be it resolved that the town council accepts and appropriates $925,000 of Connecticut DECD state grant funding for the Ball and Socket Arts, Inc. for Building 1 remediation and rehabilitation under Round 14 of the Brownfield Municipal Grant Program. And be it further resolved that the town council authorizes town manager Sean M. Kimball to execute any and all necessary documents associated with this grant.
Motion, we have a second. Thank you, Mr. Jinks. Mr. Walsh, I know we.
Well, I know we have Mr. Martelli here to explain everything about how we got this grant, so I will
Sure.
turn it over to him.
Is this working? Can you hear me?
Yep.
Good evening. I just wanted a little bit of background on this. Back on September 21st, 2021 rather, Town Council authorized the submission of the grant application to DECD as part of the Brownfield Round 14 grant applications. We received a conditional award back on January 6, 2022, so about a year ago. And part of the conditional award was that Ball and Socket Arts had to raise dollar for dollar match before DECD would release the $925,000. They were given 18 months to do that. They were able to not only raise the $925,000, but well over $1 million in private donations, actual cash contributions to the project within that time period. After DECD audit and whatnot, they released the funding. We received the grant award notice on November 18th, 2022 for the full $925,000. It's going to work similar to the way that the pass-through has worked in previous projects with the Sweet Claude's fit out in Building 1. This grant is going to be for Building number 2, which is the large 50 to 55,000 square foot building along the Farmington Canal. Re-roofing that building from the north back to the south, which will be over the main parts of the building where the Great Hall is envisioned back to where the bike shop is proposed. And then also closing the indoor pool or the canals, whatever you want to call them, inside Building 1. Fuston O'Neill has designed a remediation strategy for that. So that's all part of this $925,000 project. The project is greater than 925, and Ball and Socket is contributing the rest of the delta, and that's about a $1.2 million project in totality. It worked really well last time when we worked with Ball and Socket for the pass-through, the other 3 grants that we've administered through the town. This time, now that we actually have an engineer on staff, I'm going to lean on Merrick a little bit to help function going through the payment applications to review those before they're submitted to the state for payment. That's pretty much, that's the skinny of it. So if there's any other questions, I'd be happy to answer.
John, go ahead, and then Don.
Go ahead, John.
Andrew, just curious if you know, how much have you gotten through grants that have come through the town in total?
It's about, in direct financial assistance that we've administered through the town, it's about $3 million with including this
Including this, about $3
$925,000.
million.
They've received over $5 million. Part of that was for the acquisition of the property. So
Town wasn't passed through on it.
that wasn't passed. That was direct grant assistance to Ball and Socket Arts as the nonprofit. So we've been, there's been a lot of money that's come to the project. it's, you know, I feel like there's a lot of paperwork and we're not getting like these huge chunks. Like if you watch a lot of these brownfield projects, sometimes get $10 million from DECD in one tranche. We're getting these smaller allocations. But the money keeps coming. They're happy with the performance of the project. And obviously others are too, because they received $1 million direct financial contribution from one private resident in town towards the rehabilitation of that structure. So that was part of the match, but then there was other matches, both in kind and then cash contributions that they've received. They even received a $25,000 check the day Sweet Clouds opened from one individual also. So there's a lot of community support for it. So.
John, go ahead.
Thanks, Andrew. Now, I was reading here, it says that they've already raised 4.86 million of the 9.8 million. That doesn't include any grants?
That's inclusive of grants.
Oh, so that includes the 3 million of it is grants. Okay.
Yes.
How much more? Yeah, how much more
I mean,
after this? That's what I'm wondering.
I mean, that's the question. I can't answer that. I mean, they could answer that. I mean, there is a full kind of capital stack of what they need to raise. And that was all what DECD wanted to see. DECD wanted to see, you know, what is the end game here with the project? So there was a lot of conversations that went on with Ball and Socket Arts. I was part of those conversations, more just listening, working with DECD and our direct contacts there. There is another large project that we're waiting to hear on, which would install all fire suppression through all of building number 1. So with the fire suppression being installed in building 1, the roof done, the environmental issues taken care of in that building, the $1 million angel donation that came through, that's actually being used to rehabilitate. If you drive by there, you'll see like the stack has been repaired, all the pointing on the outside of the building where air conditioners have been put through the masonry, those have been pulled out. The individual who donated the money really wanted to see the whole shell of the building rehabilitated. So that's been going on in small phases. By a crew that they've contracted with directly. But the idea is to get the shell, the roof, the flooring, fire suppression installed so then they could start slowly fitting out portions of that building for tenants.
Is there more remediation after this so that will be needed? Is that your,
Yeah,
so,
I mean-
so this is just for building 1? And
Building 1 is the main building.
Main
on
one,
the
yeah.
structure. So building 2 is the Sweet Clouds building,
Right.
we call it. Building 3 is the wood shop building, which the plans were just submitted today
okay.
for the fit out. And that building, that construction is going to start as soon as they get the building permits for that. They have that funding in place. Building 5 was demolished. Building 5 is the coal house, which is a separate building in the back. And then the water treatment building, which was just demolished, I guess would be building 4. I'm doing my math correctly. And then that's all the site buildings.
Okay.
So building 1 is the main structure, which is, you know, I've
Yeah.
So
Thanks.
Go ahead, John.
We also have on the agenda an item regarding the parking that the town is going to share. Is there sufficient funds between this grant and the money that you have already to build that parking lot, or is that additional funds you're going to need to
yeah,
actually?
you'll
build
hear that in the executive session tonight, but yes, the answer to that is yes. Yep.
I had one question.
Sure.
The grant for 925, they added to that just under $300,000. Is that what you said? So they still have roughly 700,000 from their own fundraising. So the project that the state granted 925 for was really not necessarily, they didn't care what the project was. That was just their grant total. And they had to match it.
Right. At the time when we submitted this, when we submitted the 925, that was enough to cover it at that time. So that's back in 2021. So now that project is up to the it's around $1.3 million. And so they had to show to DECD that they could fill that gap in order to so we had to submit like a project plan to DECD as part of this grant application in order to close that gap, in order to finish what they said they could do as part of the grant application. But luckily they have more money, so that could help to pay for things like the parking lot and then the wood shop, which is going to be the first gallery space on the property, which they already have a contractor for that is doing the building permits now through the building department here at Town Hall.
Well, that was my only question, and I think we're done then, basically. So we have a motion on the table. We'll call for a vote on that. All those in favor? Motion carries unanimously, and thank you for your report.
Thank you.
Appreciate that. Okay, M is the approval of construction contract award for the laboratory improvements at Doolittle School Phase 3 project. Mr. Malone.
Be it resolved that the town council approves resolution number 011023-12. Be it resolved that the Public Building Commission is hereby authorized to accept the low bid of J.A. Rosa Construction LLC of Wolcott, Connecticut in the base amount of $246,678 and award the district-wide laboratory improvements at Doolittle School Phase 3 project to said vendor as recommended by the Public Building Commission. The town manager is further authorized to execute the contract pursuant to this award and the town's bid documents upon approval by the town attorney as to form and legal sufficiency.
A motion, may I have a second, Mr. Veliver? John?
Yeah, this is
Anything to say?
fairly straightforward. I mean, this has been ongoing work at Doolittle School, and bids came in, 2 bids came in, they're very close, and the low bidder was well regarded and by both the architect and the building commission, so they're comfortable with this.
Any other questions? Ms. Bowery?
Just briefly on the bid sheet, it talks about the base bid was very close, but the alternates, there are a significant difference. Are we not, and I'm having a brain issue for the moment, are these alternates that we are not going to take, or are they things that could have been taken out?
It's my understanding we're not, it's my understanding since we're only that we're not asking for approval for the alternates.
Okay.
That's correct. Very good. Any other questions? Okay, I'll call for a vote. All in favor? Motion carries unanimously. Okay, N is review and approval of amendment to Friends of Boulder Knoll lease agreement. We can go to executive session, but if everyone's comfortable, we'll just take care of it here, I presume. We feel that's the way? You concur? Looked pretty straightforward to me. We've been doing this for a while with these folks. So with that, I will ask Sylvia to advance the motion.
Thank you. Be it resolved that the town council approves resolution 011023-13. Be it resolved that the town council approves the second amendment to lease with the Friends of Boulder Knoll Incorporated of 660 Boulder Road as presented, and be it further resolved that the town council authorizes town manager Sean M. Kimball to execute this amendment for said lease agreement pursuant to the same terms and conditions as the previous lease agreement, and the approval by the town attorney as to form and function.
Okay, we have a second for Mr. Veliver. Discussion?
Yeah, basically, it's extending the lease. They've been great tenants. If you go by, there's wonderful projects going on there, and the property is being kept in good shape. This extends the lease from December 31st, 22 to December 31st, 2025.
Okay. Any further? Oh, Mr. Veliver.
Just quickly, I just want to say, I agree with that Sylvia, that this is, they've done a great job with this property. They've been great stewards of this property, and I think it's a good thing for them to continue to be able to use this property. So I'm in support of the lease extension.
Terrific. Okay, I'll call for a vote. Oh, Mr. Bowery.
Just a quick question. Is this including that additional piece that we talked about a year or so ago that they want, they now get that on
Yeah,
a regular
this includes
basis? It
the
wasn't
whole-
just a one. Good,
right.
because they're doing, like David said, they're doing a great job there.
Good. Looks like it's in really good shape. Okay. Enough questions, I suppose. I'll call for a vote. All those in favor? Opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Okay, we move along now to, now this is an executive session was indicated. If we wanted to, I guess I could do a poll of the group. If you feel we need to go to executive session, otherwise it's a relatively
Yeah, it's
small
pretty benign.
settlement, if everyone agrees, then we can forward that. I'll just read what we're all talking about. It's the review and approval of a stipulated agreement for tax assessment appeal. With that, Mr. Bowery.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Be it resolved that the town council approves resolution 011023-14. Be it resolved that the town council hereby authorizes the execution of a tax appeal stipulated agreement by and between the town of Cheshire and 150 Notter Drive LLC for the property at 150 Notter Drive. And be it further resolved that the town attorney is authorized and directed to execute on behalf of the town said agreements in the form and upon the terms and conditions as presented at this meeting in this memo.
Okay, we have a motion. Second. Thank you, Ms. Nichols. Any further discussion?
Just briefly, I think it's self-explanatory. There was a big difference that got narrowed down to a very small difference.
Yep.
And it's one of the smaller differences that we've seen in the appeals that we've had. And I don't know if there's anything else Attorney D'Onofrio would like us to know that we can.
Town's value, 4,191,177. Plaintiff's appraisal, 2 million. After some back and forth, plaintiff agreed to a $100,000 reduction in value. So
Good job.
that's it.
Thank you.
Great job. Good job. But now we got to vote. All those in favor? Opposed? Motion carries unanimously. We now move to review and approval of the parking lot license agreement with Ball and Socket Arts, Inc. Shall we carry that into executive session? Okay, that would be good. There may be action that we take after that executive session. So that's all I'll say. So that's something we may come back to for action. We now would then move to the town manager report and other communications. Mr. Town Manager, Mr. Kimball.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. You have in your packet a brief January 23 Town Manager's Report. Just a few quick updates since our last meeting. I want to say welcome to our new Collector of Revenue, Anne-Marie Burr. Anne-Marie comes to us from Prospect, where she's worked for the past 15 years. She's currently the tax collector there. She holds a degree in business administration as well as certificates as a CCM Connecticut municipal official, certified Connecticut municipal official, as well as certified Connecticut municipal collector. She also serves on the executive board of the Connecticut Tax Collectors Association. So I want to say welcome to Anne-Marie Burr. Just a brief economic development update. In addition to, you'll see in your packet an update from the Economic Development Commission, kind of an annual update for the council there. But I did want to announce later this week, as part of the recently established Manufacturers Roundtable, which has been very successful, the Town of Cheshire's Economic Development Commission, in cooperation with the Chamber of Commerce, will be hosting Paul Lavoie and Eileen Candles in Town Council chambers on Friday, January 13th at 8 a.m. Paul Lavoie was appointed by Governor Ned Lamont as the Chief Manufacturing Officer for Connecticut in February of 22. His main charge is to coordinate the efforts from the state and private sectors in expanding manufacturing in Connecticut. Eileen Candles from the Connecticut Center for Advanced Technology and administers the state's manufacturing grant program. Eileen is very knowledgeable about many programs that can benefit our local manufacturers. Multiple Cheshire-based companies will be in attendance, as well as representatives from Cheshire High School's manufacturing program. And also, just want to announce that our Cheshire Public Library is kicked off its Winter Reading Challenge. So similar to our Summer Reading Challenge, encourage kids and adults of all ages and are invited to register online for this reading program with chances to win prizes from now to February 28th. So be sure to look for that on the Cheshire Library's website and be sure to register. And then finally, just an announcement, a reminder that upcoming Monday, January 16th, we will be closed for Martin Luther King Day. And other than that, that concludes my report. In addition to the police department reports, the aforementioned economic development report, and also the finance department's monthly financial report. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you for that, Mr. Kimball. Any questions for our town manager?
Just
Mr. Walsh.
I just wanted to make one comment because I don't know if the Connecticut magazine came out with their 40 under 40 this past couple weeks, I think. And there were 4 young women from Cheshire who were chosen from that group. So, I mean, considering the amount of towns in Cheshire and to get 40 young women under 40 listed in there, I'll give you their names. Is Nicole Esposito, Chrissy Tracy, Molly Quirm Rose, and Lauren Celentano. These are 4 young women in this town who have gone on to do really good things before the age of 40. And I envy them because I wish I could have done a lot of stuff before I was 42. But I just wanted to recognize them.
Good. That's excellent.
Where was that again?
Connecticut Magazine's 40 Under 40.
Very interesting. That's wonderful. We do have a great town. We're fortunate. Has to do with a lot of the decisions we make up here, you know.
Sure we do.
Although I don't think I've influenced anybody under 40 in a long time. Okay. What else is on your reports? We've got the finance report. Thank you, Jim, as always. We'll read it on Monday. And then we go to the chairman's reports. I want to mention before we get into that, that council had asked committees of the council, economic development, organizations like that, that the town, that we're very familiar with, to make an annual report to us. And many of them have. And we've received a number of those tonight. We're going to start summarizing some of those reports as we give our liaison reports. We'll do it this month and next month if necessary. But I want to thank those boards and commissions who have given us these excellent reports. We do appreciate it. We know you work hard, and we know how important it is for the town to have volunteers such as yourselves. And again, thank you for that. So we'll do that a little further into the report after we go through essentially our regular committee of the council report. You have anything to say, Mr. Bono? You did make a report on the town attorney for labor. You're all done? Okay, you can embellish. You can mention that Jeff's contract is coming up. Okay.
Mr. Weber. Well, we've had obviously some discussion on ordinance, and I'd like to thank the committee members and the staff for helping move those through the process. Obviously, we will be meeting again to discuss that, as well as we have a meeting tomorrow to discuss the veterans tax exemption and also follow up more on the sign ordinance and the application process. So.
Excellent.
Personnel is not met over the holidays, but we will be meeting now that we have a new labor attorney. We will have just an introductory meeting with him as we approach the contract negotiations that'll be coming up in the next 18 months or so.
Excellent. Mr. Walsh?
Solid Waste has not met, but I would like to try to set up a meeting in the next few weeks, just because I think it's time that before we start getting into the budget to discuss some things that are going to be on that agenda. Thanks.
Thank you, Don.
Budget committee items were in the agenda tonight that we all addressed.
Terrific.
No update from the audit committee.
Okay, thank you. With that, we will now move on to, we're going to bypass miscellaneous for a change and go to miscellaneous appointments and start with liaison reports. And as I mentioned, if you have an opportunity for the group liaise, want to sort of summarize their annual report, feel so free to do so. Mr. Pavano, anything? Mr. Belliber?
No reports.
Ms. Nicholson?
Well, I do, in a very short thing, I would like to acknowledge, I'm the liaison to both the library and the Performing and Fine Arts committees, and they work quite closely together. So I want to give you a brief update on the report from the advisory board, and again, acknowledge our library director who is here and is sat for this long meeting. If I miss something, let me know. The library board now has a full complement of people. We encourage people to volunteer for these commissions, and this is the time of year that if you're considering being on any board of commission that we talk about in the next couple of meetings, please consider putting your name up because we need people. So the library board is full complement. They have, the library board this year meets on a monthly basis, and because they serve the wider community, they've invited several people to come and speak at their meetings so that they're aware of what's going on in town and can make appropriate decisions. They've had the head of adult services at the library. They've had Jeff Solon, who's superintendent of schools, to see how the school project is going to affect library things. They've had the president of the Friends of the Library. Andrew Martelli has been there to talk about economic development and grant writing, and Joanne Pilarchik, who is the director of Arts Place. So they're very active in keeping the library up to date on what's going on in town. There's just too many things to mention completely, but they are responsible for the policies, like we just discussed, the fines and the regulations. Those are part of their discussions. They obviously look to provide good services for the town. They're going to be embarking on a strategic plan for the library, which the one that's currently in place expires in 2026. So that one was initiated in 2016. So for the next couple of years, they're going to be looking into a new strategic plan. They provide excellent services for the town and any of us who've been at the library. Beth, is there anything serious that I missed in that a list that you want to make sure that people are aware?
The only other thing I would add is that I'm sure many of you have heard in the news, there's been a huge technical challenges all across the nation. And I want to be looking at our professional development policies and make sure that we're in a good place should we ever face such a challenge. I know this town has done in the past a pretty significant one. It's handled very well by the previous, my predecessor and the council. But I want to just make sure that we're ready for that, and should it come up, and that our policies stand up.
I'm not sure that got picked up on thing, but we'll make sure that gets into the minutes because you weren't at the mic, but that's good. And because they work so closely together, Arts Place has done a lot of programs there, and they've just been so busy. They're always busy doing things, and I can't read the whole list, but they've had the Scarecrow project was a result of the Performing and Fine Arts program. They present scholarships for $1,000 to 2 different students every year. They have an annual author event. They have a pajama program that they collect pajamas for children, and a book collection. They have an art market. And they do a lot of collections for the food bank. So their art programs have been very, very busy and included a lot of residents and students at the Arts Place who do not even reside in Cheshire. So 2 active committees, very important for our town.
Good. Peter, I'm going to go to you if you are prepared to make a report on Park and Rec. I know it could potentially be lengthy, but I want you to take the time that you would like.
I don't have a liaison report, and if it's okay with the council, I will give a full Park and Rec recap, hopefully next month when I have a little semblance of a voice to work with.
Terrific. That's what I thought you might say, and I guess I misunderstood you when we talked before, but that's terrific. I think that's fine. It was a rather lengthy report, and I'll be sure you have it before you. Okay, Mr. Walsh, anything?
No report.
Mr. Bowery? Okay. Mr. Malone?
Yes, I can give a couple of quick updates. I'm liaison to both Environment and the Building Commission. So Environment did provide a report to this council a couple of months ago, which I thought was a very thorough report. So there's not another report. And if you recall, they provided updates on the various open space parcels they've been visiting and assessing and trying to do management plans and use plans for. And I think the work has been very productive. The Building Commission has also been very active. 3 projects completed this year. HVAC and locker room improvements at the police station, which we understand were very well received. I have not seen them personally, but I've heard a lot of positive comments regarding the quality of that. Roof replacement at Dodd Middle School, which was very important, and ADA code compliance work at Cheshire High School. We've got about 6 projects in process right now, and they continue to be active. So.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Yeah, I just have a report. Beautification Committee did submit a written report to the council. We heard from sustainability team a couple months ago now, I think it was. They were here in person. And so as far as Beautification Committee goes, I mean, there's a long list of things that they've been doing over the past year. The work of the beautification committee is kind of threefold. One is that they review and help the town to sort of make decisions as far as what to plant on public property, so the pool, around the town hall, in the parklets and things that we have. Another one of their main tasks is to review commercial sign applications. They've done, according to this list, they did at least 13 this past year. I think it may have been a few more, but so 1 or 2 a month at their meetings, they're reviewing commercial signage, making sure it's kind of fitting within our regulations. And then the third thing is to do look at commercial planting plans as well. So commercial developers will bring their plans to the committee to look at, and the committee will make their recommendations based on what's being planted and what they think may look good, make sense in terms of whether it's native and or invasive or that kind of thing. So those are kind of the 3 key things that the beautification committee works on. Some things you guys may have noticed over the past year, like the decorations here in the town hall is from the beautification committee. Planters down West Main Street, they do those. They maintain those, I think, all 4 seasons. Trees in Cheshire Park, new landscaping around the pool. Those are a few of the sort of larger projects that they've done this year. But again, they submitted a pretty long report here to us. So when you get a chance, please take a look.
Terrific.
Will these reports be put on the website just in case people want to see them? Because like Jim said, that they're pretty lengthy, and I think would be good for.
Well, yeah, it's probably a good idea that, I know our website has the committee pages, if you will. Perhaps their chairs could be suggested. Arnett, perhaps you could follow up on that. Because I think it is a good idea. I had honestly forgotten that we'd received the Environment Committee's report back in August. And there's also this interesting proposal, I guess, from Sustainable or maybe Environment regarding the kinds of trees should be, planted and some, I guess, some dissent, which I think was reasonable. But at least they're also interfacing with other groups in town to kind of come to certain determinations about this and that. And I think that benefits the whole community. So, yeah, I think that would be a good approach to ask them to.
Tim, I just want to clarify just that what you're talking about. Environment Commission actually worked on a invasive species policy that they submitted, or they presented to Beautification Committee.
Right.
Beautification Committee gave their sort of recommendations based on what they thought would work or wouldn't work. So it came from the Environment Commission, just to clarify.
Oh, okay. Yeah, okay. I wasn't sure if it was sustainability or not because of, I just wasn't sure. It's all very interesting, though, that they're going back and forth. Okay. And we also did have a very substantial report from the Water Pollution Control Authority within the last month. And I guess the only people we haven't really necessarily heard from that we often hear from, other than emails, is the Energy Commission. I know they want to get their hands on the schools in a big way, and I'm sure they'll have that opportunity. But, but we do have very active commissions in town and boards, and I think it's just terrific. So with that, let us move along to appointments to boards and commissions.
Yes, sir. It is January, and we are considering the reappointment of several commission members whose terms expire. So I would like to present a few this evening. And they, unless I state otherwise, they are all Republicans. The first is Lauren Backman, who is being renominated to Chespercott Health District, and I will pass them to you to sign as I do that. The second one is John Torello, reappointed to the Historic District Commission as an alternate. It's a renomination. This term of office goes through 2025. Hers goes through 2025. January 31st. He's also Republican. Okay. Alan Cashmore is being reappointed to the Cheshire Housing Authority. Term is office present till May 31st, 2027. Will McPhee being renominated to Inland Wetlands and Watercourse. Term of office to 1/23 to 1/31/27. Earl Kurtz is being renominated to Inland Wetlands, term 1/23 to 1/31/27. Michael O'Donnell being renominated to Park and Recs Commission, 1/23 to 1/31/27. Patrick Duffy being renominated to Park and Rec Commission, same term, 1/23 to 1/31/27. Steve Trefone is a renomination to Park and Rec, term 1/23 to 1/31/27. Paul Shea is a renomination to the Retirement Board, term 1/23 to 1/31/27. John Parati III, renomination to Water Pollution Control Authority, Flood and Erosion Control Board. Let's get that correct. It's a renomination from 2/1/23 to 1/31/26. And Nicole Davison, renomination to Youth and Human Services from 2/1/23 to 1/31/25. And that is my list for today. Peter?
Mr. Chair, I will second those nominations, and DTC is actually meeting tonight for nominations to appointments, so I'll have those next month. I do this month, though, however, have a correction to a previous appointment, and that is Helen Wilson's appointment to Historic District Alternate, correcting the term of office from 1/31/20 to 1/31/23.
Okay. I have that, Peter. Okay, so we have what's before us. We'll call for a vote. All those in favor? Thank you very much again for your service, guys and gals. So with that, we move on to the town attorney's report and any other communications. No report. Thank you, sir. And letters to the council. Not aware of any. Anyone have to share anything? They want to share anything in particular? Okay, fine. Then I will look for a motion to go into executive session to cover contract negotiations, pending litigation, and land acquisition, and to include the town attorney, the town manager, assistant town manager, our economic development coordinator. Jim, will you be joining us for any specific reason? Okay, okay. Jim is not going to be joining us. And so with that, I will ask for some support to go into executive session. Okay. All those in favor? Okay, we're all in favor. We'll just give the necessary timeframes before we actually start, so people can